All right, I did it that time.
It
I did
worked.
it that time.
We're recording.
I did the thing. Now, when you leave buttons to press to me, I bet you there's a way that I can automate this using my mixer, my mix deck.
Hmm.
But I'm not smart enough to do that right now. I don't want to even freaking
I
do.
don't even know what a mix deck is. So,
I'll show you. I mean, it's freaking awesome.
is it the one Elgato makes that thing? Or are you
No,
talking
no,
about
no.
the audio thing you
I mean,
have?
you could probably do that. That's probably going to be the more ideal one. But the Elgato thing, actually, come to think of it, that might be the better way to
Stream
go. Is
Deck.
just
That's what it's called,
stream.
right?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
the one's called the Stream Deck. My mixer deck is the one that Rode makes, but that's not actually video. That's more audio. That's
Okay.
what this XLR microphone is running into.
Got you. Alan just sent me there's some software I can purchase, like an audio filter software that I can run through this mic and it'll sound like yours.
Yeah, all right, go do that. It seems like that's also an XLR microphone that you got going on, right? Or is it
What's
a
that?
USB one?
This is a USB one,
Okay, I
but
don't
it's a
know.
good
Sound pretty
USB
good.
one.
Sound pretty good now, but
Yeah.
I think one of the better
Just
reasons that I
wait.
grabbed this, it's going to be obnoxious if you get that other one. There's a lot of pre-production stuff that I thought I could get into. Actually, I did get into for a while because when I started working with Alan for stuff. Right. By the way, let's give Alan a little bit of shout out. Alan is the sort of the master, the sensei, the Sherpa guide to all of our audio video production troubles.
Absolutely. He's half of
Alan is
Pink Pulp
amazing.
Instruction too, yeah.
Yeah, he's amazing. He's the secret weapon. He's effectively the ink pulp instruction snake eyes. You send him into a
That's right.
situation, it goes and pacifies it and gets out, leaving not a trace.
That's true.
But Alan is amazing, and it's through my experience with him that I was able to get cued into a handful of things that I needed in order to get an upgrade. Back when I was doing more videos that I was uploading to my YouTube channel, Alan was kind of showing me the way through that. So thank you very much, Alan, for trying to get us to as close as professional as possible. We wouldn't be where we are without you. So thank you very much for your time and trouble.
Most deaf.
Okay, so what are we talking about? What are we doing?
I have an
Why
idea.
do we keep doing this? I don't know if this is
You know what?
necessary
I'll
anymore.
tell you this. What this has organically become is a lot of business talk for the independent artist.
Oh, sure. I
And
hate it.
okay, well, I think it's a good thing that we're putting out there. I think we're offering something that I haven't seen much of yet in the
All
comic
right.
sphere.
All right.
So I
Whatever
think
you're
that's good.
into, I'm going to be naturally against it. So,
Yeah,
okay,
I figure. I mean, I expect that.
as long as you see value in it, because I genuinely don't, but as long as you see value in it,
I
I'm
do.
into it, Bucko. Let's
I
let's
do.
let's get
So
into it. Now,
okay,
are you
yeah.
are you remorseful at that idea because it organically turned into less of a process thing? Because I believe it's still a process thing,
It
right?
is a process thing, but no, I'm not upset because it's kind of allowing me to understand this new area of ink pulp instruction that I'm opening up, which is we have the three levels. We have the like foundation studies and we have the core studies and the advanced studies, but the
Yeah,
fourth one is going to be called business studies, and we're going
yeah.
to be recording videos that will give practical business lessons to artists, which I
I
think is
got you.
definitely needed. So this is showing me, it's giving me ideas on what to do, but it's also in terms of just overall content and branding, it's right in line with what we're doing. So I think
All
it's
right, as
good.
long as there's value in it for you, because right now there's very little value in it for me. So
So
this
what?
is
This
all.
was your idea. So what do you want to make this? We can
It's
change it.
primarily just you and me hanging out, which I appreciate the most. You decided to somehow find a business reason to do it, which I'm on board for. But me primarily, I'm just gonna sit here and jack off for like an hour and a half.
Okay. All righty.
I've got
All right.
nothing to contribute.
Well, I want to talk to you. I want to know your take on social media and how you use it and
Ugh.
what you use it for.
Okay. All right. What do I use social media for? What am I? What am I into right now, social media wise? What? No. What? Give me some context. Why did this come up? Why? Why?
Well,
What
I
is the?
mean, we spoke a few weeks ago about what like. I was so consumed with how many followers I had, and then it got me
Yeah.
thinking, like, what do I want
Yeah.
from social media?
Yeah.
And it just got me thinking, what do people who use it for?
Yeah. I'm a bad test case though, because I don't do it
But
well.
that's why
You
I
know.
want to. I know you don't do a lot, but you have a lot of followers. But that's why I want to have this discussion. If it's something you don't take too seriously and work hard at, then tell me.
Yeah.
I'm curious to know.
That makes for a very short conversation if I'm all like I don't care about
Oh,
social
we
media.
can talk about more after. This is the first
All right, all right, all right,
conversation.
all right. So hold on. Let me think. How did I ideally use social media? I think similar to uh, in line with how social media is designed, and by that I mean like they want it to be addictive. They want you to stay on their platform. They
Right,
clearly have their own motivation of why they host it for free. Yada yada yada. Right.
right.
For that same reason, that's why I was on there because that rush of like, oh, look at all these followers I'm getting. Look how many people are paying attention to my stuff. And that was what feels like generations ago. These days, there is no longer any sort of like organic growth in the social media space, you know?
You don't think
Um,
so?
no, no, at least, I mean, I'm keying on the word organic,
Okay,
right?
okay, that's fair. That's fair.
There is growth, but I don't know how organic it is in comparison to when I first started using something like Instagram or Twitter, right?
Right,
Instagram was just like, hey, if these many people follow you chronologically, they're going to continue to see your stuff as long as it's within reason of the time that you posted it, right? So
right,
probably going to be at the bottom part of that scroll is going to be your post if you posted it like 7 hours ago, 12 hours ago. But if a guy was studious enough to do it, he'll eventually run into my stuff, right? That's what
right.
I mean, right? These days, because of the way algorithm works, they want engagement. They cater the engagement specifically to the people who you've liked or you've commented on and have commented in your stuff and yada yada. I mean, I saw a what was I watching the other day where they actually had a liaison from Instagram walking them through how the algorithm ends up favoring you in as far as like when you're engaging on their platform, and it was obscene. It was a full-time job to be on there.
Sure,
Right? And that's
sure.
why people have jobs in that space because you hire them on specifically to handle your social media accounts because if you don't have the time to do it, somebody has to, especially if it's critical to your business and your brand.
Right,
And we could talk about that later. But here's how I used to use it, which is like I'd post every day. Similarly to that, I would use it on I would do it on my blogger or blogspot. Kind of ran its course, right? Everybody, there's
yeah,
always this weird, there's this great concentration of something, and then there's the great migration from it, right?
right.
And Blogger and Blogspot or like DeviantArt, not even DeviantArt, what was it? Tumblr, right? Was like the place
Uh,
for a little while,
yeah, Tumblr was, yeah, huge.
and then like and then it became Instagram and it became Twitter, right? Twitter's advantage is its easily accessible reshare button. That's how people kind of blow up on there. That's how people kind of end up finding you, is that really critical reshare button, which Instagram doesn't, at least natively inherent back in the day,
Mm,
didn't have. They have similar something like that now,
sort
but
of, sort of.
it's still a little clunky and it's not known for that, right? There's no
Right,
such thing as like a retweet button on Instagram, you
right,
know?
right.
So anyway, when it became less organic and became more algorithmic, that's when I started to realize this isn't number one. This isn't even giving me the hit that I need. It turns you into like an awful like a crack addict, because you're like, oh, I used to get X amount of thousands of people paying attention to my stuff. Now I'm getting less. What do I need to do to game the system? Yada yada. I'm like, this is just too much work, because at the end of the day, that's not what I'm paying attention to. That's not where really my focus is, right?
Where
And I
is your
remember
focus?
our good friend Becky Cloonan put it to me. It was super sobering the way she said it then, but it's significantly more sobering now, right? We were all this is the one year that she sat with us at Heroes Con, and I remember her the way she answered, and Becky is I can get along with Becky all day,
Yeah,
but the
yeah,
way
yeah.
she answered me, it almost came off as like incredulous. She snapped back, and I realized why, right? Maybe this is not indicative of who she is and how she conducts herself now, but back then, Becky was still publishing things like Wolves and
Yeah,
I can't
yeah.
remember the other books that she was doing. What was the one where it was like a knight?
The self she's done like 4 or 5 of those
Oh,
mini
she's done a ton
comics.
of them, and
Yeah,
she's really freaking good at it, you know.
yeah,
And she's done it historically, right? She's done
yeah.
that stuff ever since she wanted to break into comics, and congratulations to her now, the kind of headway that she's making. Anyway,
Mhm.
point is, we were sitting together, and people were asking her for commissions, as they do at these conventions.
Right.
And Becky was a little put off by the idea of doing commissions. She's not a fan of it. She's not fond of doing it. She'll do it because that she feels like it's almost incumbent upon her to do it while she's at a convention. But at the end of the day, given the choice, she'd rather not. She'd probably just end up working, writing, drawing pages or whatever.
Right.
And she kind of made, I don't know the exact rhetoric that I used, but I did say like, or I don't remember the rhetoric that she used. It was something like, oh man, these commissions are really, I really feel bad about not doing my best on these these commissions are in a great on whatever it was. It
I
wasn't
remember her
like
saying stuff like that. Yeah.
it wasn't coming off as ungrateful, but it was definitely coming from a place of like if I could do something else, it would probably not be this.
Right.
And I remember like, why not? It's your job. And the way she snapped back at that, the way she's like, no, it's not, right? And I was like, oh, you're right. This isn't your job. And when she said it to me, it took me just like a few seconds to be like, oh, right. This isn't her job. This is the added bonus to her job, but she's not here. She's not doing this because she wants to be at a convention doing commissions. She's here because she wants to make these comics. She's at her core, a comic book creator,
Yes,
not a
for sure.
commissions creator,
Right. Right.
So that lands very profoundly with me these days, as we're having conversations about should we go back? I'll speak for myself. Should I go back to doing conventions again? Should I go do these commissions that are not of my IP, yada yada. So to answer your question, that's what I'm focusing on. My focus is making comics.
Hmm.
My focus is starting, standing up my business, that people understand that I'm just not a writer and an artist, but also I'm a publisher, you can
Right.
get on board with my like brand because there's quality behind it, right?
But don't you see social?
Instagram
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Instagram takes you away from that, right? Because it is a full-time job. Because
Hmm.
it can be argued, don't you see that as a critical part of your business? It could be. Yeah, sure. I can lean pretty heavily on it, but I think there's a better way to get the kind of engagement that Instagram now has actively sort of filtered out, has actively like sussed out because of their algorithm. It's pretty gross, right? So
Hmm.
yeah, sure, there's a way that I can leverage Instagram, but in as much as but in contrast to how I used to do it, which is like pretty heavily, I don't do it as much anymore because the returns aren't there. It's not getting the kind of eyeballs that it needs.
So you don't see it as something worth putting time into in order to help market your publishing.
No, because the return, like, if it's $200, this is a bad example, but I think it's pretty clear. Like, if I have $200
Hmm.
and $200 is like representative of my time, energy, effort, and yeah, my money, right? If I have $200 and I put it into Instagram, am I gonna get $50 back, $60 back, $400 back, right? I don't think so at all, right? I don't think it'll ever get anywhere near there, and I know it if we're just using monetarily what that means, right? Because Instagram has the boost feature, and the fact that they
Right.
have a
Right.
boost feature clearly states that they're now in the business of like making money off of engagement.
Yeah.
Oh, you want people to engage with you and your brand more? It's going to cost you to do that because
Hmm.
we've effectively taken the organic version of that away from you.
Hmm.
So for every $100 ad spend in my 100 and I don't know how many followers I have, 150, 160,000
A
plus.
lot. A lot.
If I'm getting 10% of that, that would actually be worth it. If I'm getting 20% of that, I'd be freaking happy, but I'm not. You know what I mean? And there's a slider on the Instagram app when you start trying to quote unquote boost your post to be like, first of all, how much money do you want to spend,
Yeah.
right? And based on that slider, it can tell you from this many to this many, this is probably how many people this is going to get to. And I'm like, holy crap, you guys have gamified engagement, which is great because, as your business, you need to find a way to help keep the lights on. But that's my point. I'm going to spend $200 on something and I'm only going to get less than 20% of my followers. And if I'm going to get 20% of those, how many people are actually going to end up buying my books? Because here's the thing, like, people, it's easy enough for people to follow you on social media. You're like, oh, you're freaking amazing, dude. You got like 60, 50, 100,000 followers from wherever you are, whatever platform that you end up sort of like falling in love with and wherever you are that's popular. But follows are free, man. You know? Like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I would say that if you get 10% of people who are actually willing to plop down the kind of money that you need in order to keep your business going, in order to make something sustainable, you'd be pretty lucky. But most often than not, people are just there because they've been trained to follow for free. They're not really trained to buy anything,
Right. That's very true.
right?
So, where do you see yourself marketing with your publishing business? Like,
It's, I
how
mean,
are
it's,
you going to
I'm not
reach people with
abandoning
it?
social media. I'm not
No, 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 no.
abandoning,
I get that, but where
yeah.
else? Since you're just casually using social media, where are you putting your money and efforts into in order to get
My
sales?
3 year plan is to develop an ecosystem within my own website, right? That
Hmm.
means you don't leave ericaneti.com, you don't leave arcathena.com. You're in
Right.
there and you're
But
hanging out. Now, the
how
old
do you
way
get
was to
people
have like
there?
message boards and blah, blah, blah,
Right,
right?
right,
But
right.
the other way is there are these widgets that you can now fully 100% install onto your website in which you can have live engagement if you decide to just stay there all day, similar to when you would have Discord, similar to when you would
Sure,
have,
sure,
right?
sure. But how are you going to get people to the site?
It's a matter of it's I believe that it's going to take a lot of effort, but it's a matter of like incentivizing them to go there, right? Hey, you really like my art. The 10% of you who are following me here, not just because it's free, but also because you're really super into it. I'm going to take I don't have the exact plan yet, but I'm going to make that barrier to entry as minimal and as less abrasive as possible, right? How do you sign up for my site? Well, if you do, this is how you do it. It's really super easy. You just click on this button and you're signed up. Oh, you're already on my mailing list? Wonderful. Here's how you sign up. You're already getting this anyway because you're on my mailing list.
Right, right.
That's it. That's my plan is to keep growing those people that are following me exclusively, and not necessarily the people who are following me because it's convenient. They're actually invested in understanding and knowing what I'm doing.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a slow trek for sure. It's gonna be a slow way of
I
getting
mean,
there, but I
I
think it's
start.
the
I
only
had a
way.
yeah. I had a conversation today. I'm putting the same ideas into motion as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, there you go. That's if you want the short answer. That's it. If you want like the game plan of how to do it, I don't have those pieces in place yet. But I definitely do not want to continue and using these social media platforms because and this is not me being paranoid because I've lived through more than a handful of social media platforms going away, not the least of which things like MySpace, not the least of which things like, DeviantArt and what do you call it? What is it? Tumblr. That's like all those
Right,
shops like closed down, right?
right,
Even now, as you start seeing where things are going, like is Facebook going to be all like Facebook used to be a viable business. People used to pay money into investing, or excuse me, pay money into Facebook because they knew they would get the kind of marketing that they need out of it, if not outright sales. But Facebook doesn't do that anymore. It doesn't get back as much as you put in anymore. People
right.
are still employing that same exact business model, but I don't think it's that viable. Now, given the choices that's out there, it might be the most viable, right? But it's not as viable as it once was.
Right. I agree. I agree.
Yeah.
All right. Good. This is good food for thought.
Is it?
Yes.
I
Because
don't know
I'm.
if the
What?
well, social media to me has turned more into like it's different. Back in the day, people wanted to see who you were as a personality. So you almost came up with an act. Like, oh, here's the guy who, you know, I can't. There's this streamer called Doctor Disrespect that was on Twitch for a while, left to go to YouTube and elsewhere, and he always had this thing. He had a shtick, you know.
Yeah. There's a lot of
And
that.
yeah, and that's what social media has turned a whole lot of different people into. If you were to meet them in real life, you're like, oh, you're not. that abrasive. You're actively trying to do this online because you have nothing
Right.
else going for you. You know, so you think like putting on a Ric Flair, or putting on the social media version of Randy Savage, the Macho
Yeah,
Man,
it's the
Randy
kayfabe of
Savage.
social media.
Exactly. But then you go like, but then some people don't know that that's an act.
That's
Some
true.
people don't know that it's like a WWE
Right.
fucking
Right. Right.
fake thing. So it's not so much that the fan base doesn't know that, right? I trust that they eventually end up seeing through that anyway. But there are some dum dums on this side of the table, but I mean like actual professionals
Yeah. Yeah.
who conduct themselves like total fucking assholes. Am I allowed to curse on this podcast?
Absolutely.
Because
Fucking hell.
they don't know. They think that that's like, they believe that by just like acting like jerks, it's the authentic version of themselves.
Right.
And
I'm
that's the
being
sad
honest.
part, is that
Yeah,
it's
they
not,
believe
there's
that's
other people out
honesty.
there.
Right.
Say again?
They
Yeah,
believe
because
they're being honest and
yes,
yeah.
yes. And what they didn't understand was that the people that they were looking at that were acting like jerks, that were like shocking people, that's the kayfabe,
Right.
right?
Right.
But they're actually jerks. They're actually like, oh, you are a reprehensible human being. You just didn't know it yet. And now it sort of like, it opened the floodgates to people just acting like idiots, right?
Yeah.
And then you have this whole, culture turn where people are now policing those idiots. So you can't be as
Oh
much of
yeah.
an idiot
Oh.
anymore,
Right.
you know?
Right. Right.
So you see it happen in this weird cycle. There's plenty of people 10 years ago, whenever it was that I opened my Twitter account, where I'm like, I know you in real life. You're not this guy, you know? I
Right.
get it, though. I get it. I understand. You want to get, like, this is the kind of stuff that makes people raise their eyebrows. I understand why people are following you, why you're engaging with them in a negative capacity, and yada, 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 right? But, like, you continue down that path, and then suddenly people are overreacting to it, but not because you did anything, but because culture has changed. And now everybody gets butt hurt so easily. Everybody has like, they're the 2-ply tissue soft version of what a human being used to be. Like, I can't imagine growing up when I did, and you just know that I'm an old fart, because I can't imagine growing up if I did, where my wife just said this, she had a friend who came to visit, and this friend hung and I tilted really, really badly. I got really annoyed at the idea. Her friend hung the American flag in front of their house, right? And one of their neighbors was like, "Did you know that hanging that flag is hate speech?" And I immediately redlined. I was like, "Go fuck yourself." No, it's not, And the fact that you think that that's true, that's actually, first of all, just by definition, that's actual speech,
Right. Right.
when it's the hanging of a flag.
Right.
You understand the definition of speech, right? That's not it, And secondly, like, the fact that the person is just patriotic enough to hang something in front of their house, in as much as you're patriotic, whatever it is that you identify with, you hang it in front of your house. It doesn't automatically make it speech. There's nothing associated with that thing that makes you.
Wait. Let me understand.
So
here.
anyway,
it was Cassandra's friend's neighbor that hung the flag, or
no, it
Cassandra's
was
friend
Cassandra's friend
hung
hung the flag, and
the flag,
the
and the
neighbor reacted in
neighbor
such a
said
way.
that to
Yeah,
her. I got you.
we're in that space now, in as
Yeah,
far as
we
like,
are. Oh, we are.
right?
We definitely are.
That level of just like mental, that's that softness in brain matter that exists now, and so now there's an entire social media. Now you get one person that gets, so this goes back to what I was talking about before, when I used to feed into Instagram, because that hit felt really, really good. Oh my gosh, my follower count is growing, and every time I post something, people go crazy over it. Yada yada yada. That's not exclusive to me. That's not exclusive to posting art. That's exclusive to just engaging on social media. The first couple of dum-dums that did do that sort of like soft brain talk on social media, right? And they got a ton of engagement. People saw that and like, whoa, I can get away with that. That's conduct allowable in those spaces. And matter of fact, it's celebrated. Now everybody's doing it, right? And the kayfabe thing wasn't just exclusive to the guys who were acting like you're Howard Stearns and you're acting like you're, shocking things. Now that same exact muscle that used to flex on that end, the Randy Macho Man Savages, right? The freaking Ric Flairs, that muscle is also twitching for these guys who were standing there, soft-brained or acting like they're soft-brained.
Right. So,
right? Because it's easy to broadcast, to sort of like virtue signal in that space, but not necessarily because you conduct your lives behind it, or like
oh,
not because you believe it,
no. All
right?
these
But because
people
you're getting
virtue
that same
signaling.
exact, yeah, because you get the
How,
same exact hit of us posting artwork and people coming back going like,
right,
"You're freaking awesome." That feeling of like, look how many people are paying attention to what I'm saying.
right,
It's the same exact thing that endorphin release that's releasing into your brain that makes you feel like you're more important than you really are.
right.
That's happening, and that's social media through and through, right?
Sure,
For good
sure,
or for
sure.
bad. Now you have to
Right,
be aware that that's what's happening, but some of these guys can't get off of it, right? They
right,
look for it.
right. Well, yeah. I mean, if you use social media that way, social media will respond to you that
Oh,
way
for
by
sure,
showing
for
you
sure.
more. I mean, I don't see a ton of it because I don't engage with that sort of stuff at all.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. I love that statement because my buddy and we both know him. Like Michael DeNicola was saying, like I rarely go to Twitter because Twitter to me has devolved into just a pit of people yelling at each other 280 characters at a time.
Yeah,
Just people who are anti each other. Like if whatever it is that you're into, guaranteed there's a group of people who are not into that thing.
right. I don't put a
And,
lot of energy into Twitter.
yeah,
I
yeah,
don't put a lot of energy into Facebook. I do put my energies into TikTok and Instagram.
sure, sure.
Um, I mean, and
Help the Chinese. Why don't you?
but I am playing along with the algorithm to try to
Yeah,
use it to my advantage.
I get it.
Um,
I get it. By
and
the
right
way, I
right
don't
now it
have.
has value. It's not. You're right. I mean, it's not like end all be all value, but it does have some. I
Yeah,
like.
for sure.
I can put a post up where I give a little tiny lesson in whatever I'm
Yep,
drawing,
yep.
and I can see later that day I sold a video because of it. So
Yeah.
I do see a one to one.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I'm not saying that as a tool it's invaluable. What I'm saying is that you now have to do the math in your head in as far as how it's valuable to you.
Right,
Like the
right,
analogy that I was using is I have $100. Do I want to pour it into
right,
this version of social media, or like what's my ultimate goal? Right? Is it because I
right,
want to? Is social media going to get me closer to that goal, and should I put any time, energy, and finance into it? So again, I'm not diminishing it. I'm just saying that there's sometimes when you get caught up in it, when you make it all
sure.
about that, and you decide that the value of you is now associated to whatever that follower number is. I'm all like, some of those people are following because it's so easy to hit a follow button, not because they'll show up to your house and be like, yeah, I'm, not 100,000 people, if I ever put out the call, are not going to show in my front lawn going like, yeah, no, I'll help you build a baseball field or whatever the hell, like
Right, right,
that's not going to happen. It's easy to hit a follow button. It's harder to have them engage in a capacity that's actually genuine and supportive. Hitting like, it's so easy. It's like bep, and it feels
right,
so
right.
good because you know what they
It's
do now with the like
it's
button.
just
I don't
part
know
of
if
the
you.
scroll, scroll double tap. Like yeah,
Oh,
it's
dude, yeah, and Instagram is. I don't think Instagram is doing it yet, but Twitter is definitely doing it. That when you hit the heart button, it engages the haptic engine of the phone so that it vibrates.
does it really?
Oh yeah,
Oh, I didn't know that.
that's freaking amazing. It's like this amazing sort of programming. Not only now is it like visual, but it's also tactile.
Right, right.
Right? It's freaking amazing. I am in
Oh yeah,
awe of the people who are social engineering the hell out of these social media sites. I love them because it's just like, oh, if this, I jokingly thought like, oh, if they ever decided to use their powers for evil, and I'm all like, wait a second,
yeah.
that's not.
Wait, yeah, yeah.
that
They
might
already
that
have.
might be an underreach that might be giving them too much credit on my part. Anyway, to go back to
Um,
your original question, I use social media sparingly and strategically because I know what I'm trying to get out of it, and
what
that kind of engagement, which is like help validate me, which is that engagement. That's not what I'm looking for. Help
what?
validate me and my opinion and outlook, my work, and blah blah blah. I can
Right.
do that on my own. What I'm asking you for is your support. That's what I use it for,
Okay. So
and as an awareness tool, right?
that's what you want to get from social media is you
Yeah.
want yeah, yeah, that's exactly where I am too.
Yeah, I want to be able to reach out to those people who are easily following me. And by the way, I'm not diminishing it. I'm not saying like, oh, don't follow me if you're not willing to spend money. That's not what I'm getting at. I'm like,
No, no, no,
follow
no.
who you want to follow. If I'm putting something up that you genuinely are into, thank you so much. I'm grateful for that
Yeah,
because it's rare that somebody's gonna look at your work and be like, yeah, because keep in mind, as easy as a follow is, they could follow anybody, right? And
yeah,
they follow
absolutely,
me,
absolutely.
right? So I'm
Yeah,
grateful for that, right?
yeah,
So what I'm saying now is that thank you very much for your follow. There are going to be a handful of you who are going to be huge advocates of my work, and for you, because it takes an extra muscle to flex, which is to dig down into your pocket and sign on to a PayPal, sign on to a crowdfunding site and support. For you, thank you very much. And if it happens to be that you like it enough so that you can spread the good word, I can't even begin to understand how to repay you back for that favor. You know?
sure, sure. Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, I look at social media as a means to give free content.
Oh,
A
sure.
lot of times, free little education tidbits. And
Mm-hmm.
if you are engaging with those and you are liking those, maybe you'll want to come get a video or get
Sure.
involved with Ink Pulp
Sure. I
Instruction.
need you to change your rhetoric.
Go ahead.
You said maybe you want to come, right? If you're liking those, maybe you want to come. I want you to change your rhetoric to start saying you should.
Well, yeah, yeah. Okay, okay.
Start
Fair,
saying that, right?
fair.
Long term, that has more actionable value. Maybe puts them into a neutral position.
Right,
You should
right,
come is actionable.
right. I guess what I'm trying to say is I don't give away the free little stuff with an expectation of
I get it.
them coming. But yeah, I
I
see what
get
you're
it.
saying.
It's life coaching. Anyway, so
Yeah.
yeah, so the end goal is to have it all on my website somewhere. And it's to have them go like, man, I really like the experience of being here because I am being given access and content that I often cannot get in the capacity that I would if I were to stay exclusive or neutral into these spaces that have thousands and thousands of people to be here. And I'm a firm believer that you don't need a gazillion people. I would love to have a gazillion people backing me. I would love to have the same sort of like fervor that an Apple has, as a brand. But I think if I have I don't know the number yet. I mean, I know people throw around like if you have 1,000,
I keep hearing
you know,
10,000.
yeah, something like that. I think that's
Yeah.
the hours, Shawn.
No, 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 no. 10,000 loyal supporters.
Okay. I don't know what the number is for me. I'm gonna guess that's like a general number that they give to everybody, right? I'm
Yeah, I
sure
mean, I
that's
don't know if there's
informed by a lot of
science
different
behind it,
things.
but yeah.
Yeah, but for me, I don't know what that number is, but I would like to find that core X amount of thousands of people to be like, I love this book and I'm down to, I love this creator, I love this book, I love this series. I'd love to be able to, that's my goal is to find that group of people
Yeah,
who
me
are
too. Me too.
just so you know like they are into the thing that I'm doing. I would
Right.
love that.
And that was a good step for me when I switched gears from trying to get followers to trying to get quality, not
Yeah,
quantity. Like
yeah,
trying to engage with people, not get the masses, but get a smaller amount of people that are really into what I'm doing.
yeah, absolutely. You're asking what you're doing, and I don't mean this in a bad way, but it's like you're finding your sort of tribe, your sort of cult, that
Right.
are
Yeah,
into
that's
the thing that you're
absolutely it.
into. You know,
Absolutely. Yeah.
I'm on board for that, man. I want to find those people, and it's not going to be, it's not going to be overnight. Rare. Anytime
Mm-mm.
somebody cites the overnight person, I'm all like, yeah, but that's exceptional.
Yeah.
That's not that's not standard. Most people have to really
Right. And I don't know that.
just trudge along.
Right. And that's how you get the real quality type
Yeah,
of person on your platforms. I don't think the overnight stuff is going to translate to sales necessarily.
yeah, yeah. Rare does it ever. And I'm trying to think of somebody within our circle, or at least in our outside of our circle, that's like that. Where you're like, oh, you're a brand unto yourself that people are just like, they love everything that you do. You know,
Scotty,
sure, sure.
I
But
think
isn't Scotty just like is Scotty still doing stuff for Marvel and DC?
covers and yeah, he's doing Marvel. I don't think Scotty's ever worked for DC. I can't say that for sure, but I'm
Sure.
almost positive. But yeah, he's still doing those covers.
Okay.
and
Yeah,
and
it
I
would
think
be
he writes
awesome
stuff
if he
for
just
Marvel from time
exclusively
to time.
step away from that stuff, right? Because he doesn't
Yeah,
need
I think
them,
he's
right?
making way. I mean, I agree with you, but I think he makes. I think it does a lot of good for him,
Yeah,
not just financially, but yeah. Does he need it? That no, I don't think so. But
yeah. Well, listen, I'm not in the business of telling Scotty what to do. He knows the nuances of his whatever it is that he's looking for, significantly more intimately than I do. So
yeah,
all the best to him, but I really believe he doesn't need those guys.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I think he probably knows it too, but he just has too much fun doing those covers. Who knows what
Yeah, I mean,
motivates
it
Scotty
could
out?
be that simple. Yeah, it could be that simple.
Yeah, if he's having a ton of fun. I'm trying to think of another person that I'm like, oh, unto yourself, you are an entire industry.
Oh, okay. So you're saying not even working for like mainstream publishers. Um,
Like they just kind of do it and
I
be
think
like,
Andrew McLean is. I
yeah,
mean, yeah, Andrew's unto himself entirely.
okay,
I mean, he's got his own little toy line that's all him. He's got his headlopper that's all him.
sure,
I
sure.
mean, everything Andrew does, like Laser Wolf Attack and Headlopper, like that's all he built those things, and that's all him.
You know
Um,
the true north that I look at in conjunction with somebody like Tim Lim who does Common America is Dave Peterson. I know you know Dave.
yeah, the mouse
Dave
guard guy.
Peterson is like mouse guard, right?
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
Dave, I think if I were to map my efforts onto anything, I would hope that I get within sort of arm's reach of what Dave Peterson has done,
or
which is
yeah,
just like
okay,
make books, just make books, be really super into the things that you are making, and they're all sort of in the hemisphere, they're in the orbit of mouse guard and the stuff that you like to draw, the stuff that
right.
you're strongly suited for. I hope that I have that kind of tenacity and longevity, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because I
Mm-hmm.
see the stuff that he does, and I'm like, man, that guy is still making mouse guard stuff, and he's never backed down from it. I have such a high level of respect of somebody who can stay on task, on mission for that long,
Yeah,
and it just has to come from a place of like, I'm really super passionate about this stuff, you know?
Eric Powell's kind of had that too. I
Mm,
mean, he did a little bit here and there at the publishers, but he's mainly the goon.
yeah,
Jeff
yeah.
Smith with Bone.
Oh, sure. Outstanding success,
Yeah,
I see it,
Stan
and I think,
Sakai, huh?
mm-hmm, mm-hmm, Stan Sky. That's a good model to be like. I'm wondering. Sometimes we look at these again. These are exceptional people. There's plenty of people who we can't even begin to cite because number one, we don't know them. They've been
Right,
going at it for a long, long time, but they've never really made any sort of headway into the space of like notoriety. And that's
right,
really tough. That's really super sobering. But it doesn't diminish their efforts, right? They're still going at it 16 years, 10 years, 5 years longer than I have, than you and I have.
right.
And I think I want to get to that. I want to get to that decade mark, 10, what is it? Say 8 years from now and be like, yeah, I've been kind of doing this for 10 years. This is kind of fun
Yeah,
still. This is still,
dude.
this is,
Mahfood too. I mean,
yeah,
I did a panel in Heroes Con with him, and I didn't realize Girl Scouts started in the mid '90s.
yeah,
He's been doing it for 30 something years.
absolutely.
That's
Absolutely.
amazing.
And he's just doing it.
Yeah,
He's just like, I have fun doing this. I know I'm a comic book artist, and this is the thing that I do. And so I freaking love that. I want to be in that space. It's another
me
person I
too.
can sort of like loosely say, if I can map it to somebody, it'd be like that. But definitely Dave Peterson,
Yeah,
whose work I admire, whose conduct I admire. And that's the other thing I didn't get a chance to talk about it when we were talking about social media, is that in as much as I post on there just enough to get awareness out, just enough to get people interested in my stuff, but then ultimately, find the hardcore people who are going to end up supporting my work. I conduct myself very professionally in that space.
yeah, I do too. I very
At
much
least I
do.
try to. There's sometimes when I
Me
act like a
too.
complete goofball, and just be like, "This is what I did today," and I showed off. What was the last thing I did? I had a good laugh over this feature that Twitter just had. They introduced it to like your Twitter circle. Have you seen this?
I saw that when I got onto Twitter this morning.
Did you get a prompt for it?
Yeah,
That made me laugh. I'm
yeah.
all
I
like,
was like,
what
what?
the fuck is
What?
this platform? Like,
Yeah,
send it out to your only close circle of like. But that's not what your platform is about, right? Your
Right. Well,
platform
no,
is about
that's
like,
for people to talk to their echo chamber. That's what
oh,
that is.
okay.
That's what I thought. That was my immediate response. Is like, oh, if I'm a Wokey, then I can just talk to my Wokies and we can all complain. Or if I'm crazy on the other side, I can talk
And
to.
nobody else can see it. It doesn't pop up on like.
I guess
It
you
does it
choose who.
favorite them or does it like exclusively go to them? You know what I mean?
I
Like,
think I don't know.
okay.
My assumption was you choose who it goes to, and only those people can see it.
I'm gonna freaking put you in my Twitter circle and just see if anybody else can see that shit, you know. And if everybody else can see it, I'm gonna kick you right out because who cares, right?
Okay.
Um, but yeah, no, I saw that and I took a screenshot of it and I posted it. The other one was like when I was showing people that whole signal boost for Instagram. You know, I was kind of goofing on that a little bit, but
Yeah.
9 times out of 10, I'm on there just telling people, hey, here's my experiences when I used to work on this, or here's where my brain is now in as far as my growth path. I did it earlier this morning when I was thinking like, this self-publishing thing is really super tough. This self-publishing thing takes a whole lot of work, but or no, actually I didn't phrase it like that. I said like I've come to these days I've come to really love making and drawing comics, right? The business of comics I'm still getting used to.
Hmm.
But ever since I started doing this on my own, it really felt something really clicked, you know?
Yeah, I want to feel that.
Yeah. And
That's what I want
so
to get
and so
there.
now like those are the kinds of things that I post now, right? Like I don't
Right.
do anything. But again, the nature of Twitter is somebody, regardless of like 1,000 people understanding, whoa, that's a really positive message. That's really super like inspirational, or that's kind of great. A pat on the back, congratulations kind of thing, you know? There's always one dummy out there that's like, look at this fucking boomer, you know? I'll give
Right.
you an
Right.
example.
You all.
Let me
Yeah.
give you an example. There's this one dum dum who, what I was celebrating was the idea that when I first started in comics, I got so hung up on the nerdiness of making comic books that I could never do it fast enough to make it financially viable. Like,
Right. Me too.
comics was only paying X amount per page, and if you're gonna take a week to do a page, more power to you, but you're not gonna make any money off of that, you
Right.
know.
Hmm.
So you need to crank, right? And
Right.
so, but I didn't understand what it meant to crank and do so with quality until I left, got into animation, did storyboards, and then came back to comics going like, oh, this is easy because I'm just storyboarding. Yeah, I'm adding a few more lines, but for the most part, this is just storyboarding for me with like a little bit more TLC because I'm not zooming through 300 panels worth of voice action adventure storyboards.
Right.
And so I said one of the greater benefits that I ever had going into animation is that when I came back to comics, I felt like I was that much more prepared in the actual, like in with my toolkit. I was not just when you're drawing comics, especially for mainstream comics, you're not just drawing for the sake of drawing. There's all sorts of isms built into it. You need to do it monthly. You need to do it block. You know what I mean? Like there's all of these
Right.
things that you accommodate for you to be able to consider yourself a decent enough storyboard artist, or excuse me, comic book artist, for them to keep asking you to come back. It's the
Right.
exceptional people that take it to a next level. Anyway, my point was when I came back, I felt really comfortable that I can draw it faster because of all of these things that I did in animation. There's one dum dum that was like quote tweeting me. I was like, look at this freaking boomer and how he's like contributing to what's wrong in the animation industry.
What was your tweet about?
I said, I learned how to do things faster.
Right.
They're leveraging that to be like, look how this guy, thinking that doing it faster is better and blah blah blah. You know what I mean? Like just
Yeah,
a
but
really
that
negative.
tweet is about his insecurities.
Oh,
That's what that's
I
about.
understood that. I
Yeah. Okay.
completely understood that to be like, oh, it's amazing being irrelevant and poor. How do you do it? And for somebody to be able to talk as if they're an expert in this space, I could have leaned into that and just that could have leaned into that thing and be like, oh yeah, I remember working with you on Tron and on Justice League, dude. That was tough times for us. Remember how hard? Oh no, you weren't there because you were fucking unemployable. You know what I mean? Like I could have leaned into that really, really
Sure.
hard.
Sure. Don't
But
let
the
it get in
best,
there. You're
right?
getting
But the
angry now.
best thing the thing that I did was just to say, quote tweeted the guy, or at least screen capped the guy, and was like, I think this fellow missed my point entirely. Here I was celebrating my ability to be able to draw faster and with good quality, and this dummy's trying to reflect that onto me. It's to say, like, look how misguided you are at the idea of being able to draw faster.
You know what I
Once in
do?
a while, I'll break kayfabe, that professional
Uh-huh.
kayfabe, because that I could have just left that guy alone, right? Like it's like a
Right.
fire that's like wanting for oxygen. To your point, the guy
Right.
was just like reflecting to me, or like revealing to me their sort of insecurities and their irrelevancy.
Right.
But somehow that struck a chord with me where I'm like, whoa, I need to not deal with this. So it
No,
is
I
to say
I
I'm not
understand that.
perfect, you know?
I understand that. So what I do is like I get a bad comment. Like I got I'm doing this Wolverine drawing, and
Yeah.
I was doing the drawing for a demo at TCAF.
Yeah.
And one of the comments I got was, if you're gonna mess up Logan's mask that bad, don't even put it on him.
Right. That's
And
awesome.
then
I love that comment. That comment is so primo.
so my response to him was, I hope you have a good day.
Yeah.
That's all I could say.
Yeah. Yeah. It's people are actively. I don't know. I can't speak for everyone, but I know in part people are just trying to be as relevant on that platform as possible, and sometimes going negative is the easy one. It takes so many less
Oh,
muscles and
that's
brain
so
cells to
easy.
do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look at the
It is to
news.
say,
Look at the
sometimes
news.
I'll break kayfabe. Yeah, no.
Right.
Sometimes, yeah, it's really easy, right? Because they've been
Yeah.
trained to do it. And it is to say that sometimes I break kayfabe and I end up in that space. I'm not proud of myself for doing it, but I'll do it only because it's
Well,
like, whatever.
we are human.
Yeah. Yeah, I try not to be. I try to be as dead inside as possible.
I
I
mean,
try to be
you're
like,
pretty close to dead, but you're
I'm
still
there. I feel like once in a while something resuscitates me, and I try to be as passionless as possible, but something will trigger me in the worst way possible. Actually, you know what? The thing that'll do it almost automatically is when I find that a certain institution, in whatever capacity it is trying to take advantage of artists.
Oh yeah, that's a hard one. I get
Right? I
fired
can't.
up.
I really don't like that feeling. I mean, like, there's rare that I get into the
That's when I break
mix.
kayfabe too. I
Yeah.
remember like during our lunch break, I decided to try the first episode of that Moon Knight series, and then at the end, it just said created based on the stories by Marvel Comics.
Right.
And I was like, you motherfuckers. And I tweeted it out. And I was like,
Yeah.
why isn't Bill Sienkiewicz? Why don't we see his name here?
Yeah. For sure. For sure. Yeah. When you're taking advantage, or at least seemingly in your inaction or your like indifference, it reads as, oh, we don't want to deal with that because that's not our problem, not my circus, not my monkeys, kind of a
Well,
thing. But it's like, it is your
so
circus.
yeah. So when I did that and put it on my story and kind of said something, I got one DM um, from a friend who was like, I think maybe they're scared to put names there because they'd have to put Warren Ellis there, and he's been canceled. I was like,
So
really?
stupid. So it's like, yeah, let's not accommodate everybody because this guy we shouldn't accommodate.
Yeah.
As
But
if
if there's
as if he
yeah.
had not, like, he's trying to erase him that he did do a good Moon Knight story or whatever it is.
Hmm.
It's so dumb. People are just so dumb sometimes. This is one that, and by the way, we're not gonna go down the path of like current topics, but the one that really sent me over the edge recently is when this guy who did a really, I believe to be like a really underwhelming job of doing Miles Morales' Thor, right? He has been accused of everything under the sun, not the least of which,
Wait,
like,
what's Miles Morales' Thor?
oh, yeah. Let's give this 5 minutes, and then let's
Okay,
get off of it
okay.
and think about something else. So, because Marvel as a whole is like bereft of ideas, they take an already successful character, which has, by the way, in one of its incarnations, has won an Academy Award for best animated film,
Right,
right?
right.
The big brains over there thought, let's take this character and reimagine him into every character within our IP. So like Miles Morales as Captain America, Miles
This was in
Morales
the
as Thor.
comics?
Yeah, yeah. This is what they
When?
do now, and just recently, a few
Oh
weeks ago.
my God. Wow.
Yeah. It's
Fucking
amazing. It's
dumb.
amazing leadership. It's amazing,
Oh
sort of
my
like
God.
quote unquote house of ideas. Sort of like this is
Yeah.
it. This is where you guys are going.
Here's
Anyway,
how
that's
to
not the
not
point.
have an original idea. Go ahead. Go
This is not the point. The point was they went and did it. Okay, fine. It's their publication. It's their characters. Blah blah blah. I don't agree with it, but here's the one that really got me pissed off. So one of the writers took Miles Morales and turned him into every sort of stereotype of what you would think a black urban kid would be, but now in Asgard.
Oh no. Oh no.
Oh, it was awful. I'm not gonna get into it, but it has things like by Odin's Fade. You
Oh
know, there's
no.
like,
Oh no.
yeah, it's just awful. It's just
Oh
like
no.
so. Yeah, it's more comical than anything. But you know, when people start throwing around the concept like, oh, this is so racist and this is so bigoted and this is so like tone deaf, I'm like, it could be all of those things, but really it's just because this is really poorly written, and I don't
Right.
blame the writer. He didn't go into Marvel with a gun and say, give me this fucking Miles Morales Thor story, or else.
Mhm.
They're like, we'll reach out to you. So I always point at leadership and be like, it's your guys' fault, right? Because you guys are supposed to go through this with a fine-tooth comb and tell them, hey, this might not be a good
All right.
story. This
I have to
probably
read
sucks.
this book now. I really
You
want to
should.
read
We'll
it.
read it together in one of the episodes. We'll do like a reading of it, right?
Okay.
Anyway, so anyway, the point is the writer, typical Twitter, goes out and goes after him and says like, you're a bad guy for writing such a stupid, writing Miles Morales in such a stupid way.
Yeah.
And then like this guy typically goes, it's obvious and you can see it coming a mile away. This guy goes on an apology tour. I didn't mean
Oh
to do that.
no.
Sorry about that. I
No.
should have been more sensitive. I'm going to
See,
take the money
Eric,
that
this is what I'm talking about with Twitter. I don't see this stuff because I don't engage
I
with
don't
it.
see it either,
Well,
because
how did you get?
I was going to make a point to say that Michael didn't earlier. I was going to make a point to say that Michael didn't call. It's
Oh,
like he can't go to Twitter because it's such a cesspool, and I'm all like, it's a cesspool because you're not actively curating your experience there
right,
like
right,
I
right.
do, right? Like
Okay,
I
okay.
go and the moment I even this, there's some I'll say this. I'll say this quite flatly. There are times when I have quote unquote associations, friendly associations within the comic book industry, where before I would just unfollow them. But that is such a huge strike to people's like soft egos. Sometimes they're like
Right,
their hearts are so fragile, like.
right.
So now when they unfollow, I found the mute button,
Yeah, mute
and it's
button's awesome.
amazing
I like the mute
because you
button.
don't end up offending anybody. They
No,
don't
no,
know
they
that you've
have
unfollowed
no
them. You're
one
not.
knows but you.
I suspect that people have done that with me as well. Even
Sure,
better,
sure.
if you can't stand the kind of stuff that I do, and I don't have a soft heart, unfollow to your heart or to
Yeah.
your heart's content. I don't care. But anyway, I found the mute button. It's amazing. Point is, I curate my experience on Twitter, so I don't get to see that horse shit.
Right.
But sometimes things still sneak in because I
Yeah,
do
that's
go onto
true.
YouTube.
That's true.
I have my podcast that I listen to, and this thing was the hot button thing, so everybody was talking
Ah.
about it.
Okay,
The
so
point
he went
is,
on an apology tour?
yeah, and
Go
he
for it.
decided, hey, I'm going to donate the money that I made. I think it's this. I'm going to donate the money that I made on this project to a local, whatever it is, whomever it is that I offended. I'm going to give the money to them,
Oh
or
my
an
God.
organization that represents them. So it's even better, right? And then the Twitter mob was like, hooray, we won. We did the thing that we do. We would never buy this book anyway, but
Right, right.
hooray.
Right, right, right. And we don't help any of the causes we're offended by.
0%. We just help to highlight and complain. We're not here to
Right,
fix anything. We're not
right,
here to
right,
fix anything. We just want to tell
right,
you that your house is fucking sinking or whatever it is. Hey,
right.
help me lift up my house and so it's not sinking. And like, what? No, we're not. We don't do that. We point from afar. So that's not my point. My point is, this guy went on the thing, and I took a step back, and I kind of like, where is the publisher?
Right,
Where is the leadership in
right,
Marvel that said we signed off on this? Actually, he should have to pay $0. We'll do it.
right.
It's our tone deafness. It's our inability to understand how kooky this story is and how poorly that it was done, to the point where this person is now getting publicly attacked. We'll get in front of this. And this isn't like some guy acting out of order when it comes to like their personal interrelationships within the comic book community. This guy represents you.
Right.
right? Represented
That's a
your
very good
publication,
point.
and you did not take the opportunity to go like, our bad. That's
Right.
on us. Don't do anything to this guy. We did this. We saw the story and we saw nothing wrong with it. Our bad. We'll do what this guy is effectively trying to do.
Absolutely.
0%. Not even his editor showed up in the comments to say, nope, that's on me. I did that.
Of
You know
course.
who did that? That I was like, holy mackerel. I can't believe that you're doing this. Was Steve Wack. And the example that I gave online was Steve. That's the one that really started me like, where the fuck is Marvel's leadership? Where
Right.
was the editors? Where was the assistant editors? Where's the editor in chief going like, our bad. That's on us. We shouldn't do like
Right.
that should be common practice. You know who used to
Absolutely.
do that for Marvel? It was Steven Wacker. When I did that Spider-Man story, it was one fill-in issue of Spider-Man, and it was done in such a way that I was paying tribute to the Spider-Man that I knew, which was Todd McFarlane. I love that
Right.
kooky stuff, but by the time I
Me
was
too.
doing it, John Romita Jr. had already sort of established that realistic Tobey Maguire, all
Right.
the spider webs that were like embroidered onto it. It's like it was being
R-
rendered in that capacity. It wasn't
Right.
just like a
Right.
graphic thing. So mine was a bit off-putting, understood, and I should have done a better job of like reading the room, like this is probably not it. But in my arrogance and in my youth, I thought Todd McFarlane's the Spider-Man that I love. I'm gonna draw that. And as a matter of fact, when I turned in those pages, I was hesitant. I was a little gun shy until my editor said, actually, that's awesome. Keep doing that. I'm like, oh, really? You like that? I'm going to give it to you both barrels, right? Issue comes
Well,
out. People,
let me just to be fair to yourself. A lot
yeah.
of us got into this because we loved watching artists
Oh, sure.
bring their touch, and
Sure,
that's what we
sure.
all wanted to do. We wanted to get a hold
Right.
of these characters and put our
Fair.
sauce on it.
That's fair. I thought that there was still an environment for that. Clearly, there's
Right.
no longer that. But my
Right.
editor said, go for it. And I said, absolutely, I'll go for it. Now, I had an extended working relationship with Steve. I worked with him on Iron Man, so he
Hmm.
understood the look that he was going for. He understood who he was hiring, and he said, you know what, I'm gonna basically take my foot off the brakes and just let Eric do what he does. I appreciated him for it. Issue comes out, Spider-Man fans didn't like it very much, right? To the point where they're just like every message board that was Marvel related for the books that came out that week, and it's not exclusive to like Marvel.com or whatever message boards they populated back in the day. This was across the internet. And everywhere that they talked about that issue, I would say 80%, 90% negative. You know,
Wow.
what the heck is this guy doing? Oh my gosh, maybe he doesn't, he put a last name like Canete. Maybe it's not his first language. Maybe like all of those things. There's just like really,
Wow.
really poor reviews of what I did. At the time, I didn't care. I was in Rome. I was like on vacation. I don't care. Like it's out in the wild. What am I gonna do? Like, apologize for
Right.
loving the way Todd McFarlane drew Spider-Man and yada
Right.
yada yada,
Right.
right? But you know who was in every single one of those message board threads?
Steve.
Steve Wacker.
I
Steve
could
Wacker, and
see
I
that.
think, and if I'm misrepresenting him, please forgive me, Tom. Should you ever hear this? Tom Brennan, who's the assistant editor of
Yeah,
the
Tom
book.
was Steve's assistant. Yeah.
Yeah, for a while, and then I
Yeah.
think when Steve exited, Tom became a full time editor
Yeah.
himself. But point is, they were in the mix every time. And you know what they were saying? I love Eric's work. I
Right.
love it. Sorry you don't like it, but we really believe that he brought the kind of energy that this particular issue needed. Right? It was a one-off, so it's not going to be like ongoing. Like all of those things were like just temper your like basically setting up expectation moving forward without throwing me under the bus. The thing that they did to this writer, right, when their silence is basically like, we don't want to get into that at all. That's not for us, right? And that to me is a version of leadership. It's not one that I'd want to work with. It's not one that I want to work for. And
Right.
it's across the board like that because everybody gets so butthurt so very quickly, right? I don't know if they know how to handle, they don't have the people skills in their toolkit to be able to deal with like how to, disarm a situation, right? De-escalate a
Oh yeah.
situation.
No, they don't have that.
Anyway, let's do a reading of that book and
Okay.
just like that'll fill easily 2 hours as we do a reading of it. It's
Okay.
pretty freaking hilarious.
All right. Let's do it. You got to tell me
Yeah.
which book it is so I can get it.
Let me see if I can yeah, I'll find it and I'll download it and I just want to I like uh, enough of that. I love what that's turned into, which then for me helps me focus on the things that's ultimately important, which is my own work and my own book, because
Right.
I can get into that awful mental headspace of like, what are they doing over there? And I understand why some people do it, because they are so invested in those characters. They are so invested in their history with them. They're collecting and blah, blah, blah. And so when something like that happens, people kind of explode. The internet encourages you to explode.
Yeah.
But I look at that now and I'm all like, the X-Men that I read still exists, you know?
Right.
But the Chris Claremont stuff that I love, the Spider-Man issues that made me want to watch it, or that made me want to collect it, they still exist. So it doesn't hurt the Spider-Man that I like, you know?
Right.
And that's for me is finding the personal mechanism, the system that I employ whenever I get to like hung up on like, what the fuck are they doing over there? Only to be like, it's none of my business. Like, that's not what I...
Right.
If that was my job, then I'd ask. I'd be like, or if I was actually loyal to it or invested in it, I'd be like, what are they doing over there? And go on a complaint tour, you know? And I'm all like...
complaint tour.
Michael De Nicola captures it well, and I remind because of the way it's said, it immediately makes me laugh and it makes me care less, which is like, what that guy eats doesn't make me shit.
Yeah, that's
right?
that's it.
I
That's
love that
exactly
saying
right.
because it cracks me up every time that I say it out loud, and
But
it just
it also
disarms me. You know?
exactly.
It's so funny that I'm all like, yeah, whatever. I'm gonna go work on my own books now.
Yeah, and that's what you should do. And
Yeah,
now we're at an hour.
we are at an hour, so we're gonna cut it off there. I hope that ended off on a semi-positive note.
It did.
We'll do this again next week. All right. Let's run this thing.
Run it.
So we'll have a proper outro. Ready?
Yep.
Okay, here we go. Let's see if it works.